Hello everyone. So I wanted to go through an article here from Automotive News. I think can help highlight the position that traditional automotive companies are in right now. This article focuses on Stellantis and a lot about the Ram electric truck that they plan to have available to customers in 2024. So the headline here is Ram readies for EV shift, but costs are elephant in the room. The Dodge Ram 1500 REV is Ram's answer to an electric pickup truck. This is only a concept at the moment and it's supposed to have a 500-mile range. And it says here, the REV is what we are here to celebrate and talk about, but it's expensive. Ram CEO Mike Colwell Jr. told Automotive News. That's the elephant in the room for everybody. The cost of electrification is expensive. So for sure, we need to make sure that we protect the profitability of our current in-market internal combustion engine business to help fund the transition to electrification. I hint there that the focus is still going to kind of be on their internal combustion engine business to fund the transition because the transition is going to be expensive. And then the CEO is quoted saying, the question is, how do we tackle those additional costs? If we don't do it, we are just going to have a significant reduction of the size of the market because the middle class will not be able to buy EVs, very simply put. So it is not in the interest of corporations. It's not in the interest of citizens. It's not in the interest of the unions that we shrink the market because we become too pricey for middle classes. So I think this is starting to show the mindset of the traditional automotive manufacturers, at least in the case of Stellantis here. They realize it's going to be costly to make this transition. And initially, electric vehicles for them will be expensive because it's basically like starting a new business. And you're going to lose money initially, like Tesla did in the early days. So for them, because they're just getting started, yes, the vehicles that they produce will be expensive. But we're in a world now where Tesla has already reached volume production on electric vehicles, and they're starting to be able to produce at more and more affordable rates. So I think this highlights how far behind the traditional automotive companies are. How their thinking is even still stuck in the internal combustion engine world, whereas I believe that they should be going all in on electric vehicles as we speak. The Ram CEO is quoted here saying, "There's been enough talk, now it's time to execute," Colwell said. They're starting to see that electric vehicles are inevitable and they need to be getting into this game. However, I would posit that they're late to the game, very late to the game. Tesla's going to eat their lunch, and maybe some Chinese companies like BYD. I believe that traditional automotive companies are going to struggle going forward because they just waited too long to make this switch. And they're noting how internal combustion engine sales are starting to dip. However, they're saying they need to rely on those for their funding of this transition to EVs. So we see here, they say it's still kind of gloomy. Ram sales dip was expected, Colwell said, because the brand slowed things down by pulling back on incentives and marketing late last year to preserve margins. Ram had an 81-day supply of vehicles at the end of March, he said, which is reminiscent of dealer inventory before the pandemic. Colwell said there's an emphasis on reducing costs and inefficiencies that he hasn't seen in his 2 decades at the company and its predecessors. The macroeconomic backdrop, he said, is still kind of gloomy out there, with higher interest rates among the biggest headwinds. Affordability is becoming an issue, so we're feeling some pressure on the pricing, Colwell said. But so far, we've resisted the temptation to resort to bad habits. So they're already feeling the pressure on their internal combustion engine business at a time when they need that business to be very strong to fund a transition. That's not the case. It's a tough market for internal combustion engine vehicles. Sales have been declining year over year for the past 4 or 5 years. And then this final quote also shows where their heads are at. Still to this day, in April of 2023, they're still not fully in the game of making the switch to electric vehicles. The Jeep CEO, Christian Muner, said, "I want to keep it where we are. I think we're in a good spot now," Muner said. "We want to keep our pricing power intact, and we just need to produce the right car at the right place. I think we had a few challenges of allocating the cars because we were in a shortage at one point." So we see all these plans from traditional automotive companies, but not a ton of action, especially from Stellantis. I struggle to see how they're going to do well when they're so late to the game. And this article points out that they need that internal combustion engine business to fund the electric vehicle transition. Because yes, initially, to try and be profitable on their initial electric vehicles, the vehicles would have to be expensive, especially to compete with the likes of Tesla and other Chinese electric vehicle companies. I believe they're in a really tough spot. I don't think the future looks good for a lot of traditional automotive companies. They should have been making this push years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and be at least close to scale production of electric vehicles. But I don't see them anywhere near that. Yeah, I think this article highlights that situation. The 81-day supply of inventory I don't think is a good sign. Tesla has a 16-day supply of inventory. They get bad press for having 16 days of inventory, and meanwhile traditional automotive has 81-day supply of inventory, but that seems to be fine for them. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this Automotive News article. Hopefully you enjoyed. My name's Evan Bertrand. This is the Evergreen channel. Thanks for watching.